Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and I just want to say I'm going to start doing more content now, more sort of educational based alongside training based. My goal has always been to help people understand what they should be doing and ways to progress in the safest, fastest way possible. So in this video, I want to talk about eccentrics and isometrics. Now, I do want to start by saying if you're someone who's sort of brand new to strength training, this isn't really something you want to worry about. This is more for like your intermediate lifters. So if you've been lifting for sort of 2 or 3 years and you've found you're hitting sticking points now with your lifting and certain lifts aren't progressing, this is something that if you haven't been using it, you're going to find highly beneficial. Now, it's actually looking at 2 different methods that you can use individually, but I'm going to talk about how you can combine them to get the best of both worlds. I will also explain how you could use them on their own, but I personally think you're going to get the most out of doing them together. And I'll give you examples of how to do it and what that will look like. So firstly, let's talk about eccentrics. So whenever we're lifting, a movement has what's called an eccentric phase and a concentric phase. So if we take the squat, for example, the eccentric phase is as you go down, and it's at the point where you're adding length or load to the muscle. And this is the point where the body is absorbing the force. So if you've got, say, a 200 kilo back squat, as you're lowering the weight, that eccentric phase where your body is absorbing that 200 kilos to be able to then express that as strength. What's important to know is that your eccentric strength will determine what we call your strength expression or your maximal strength. You will not be able to outdo on an eccentric what you can't do on an eccentric. So if you can't control 200 kilos down, you're not going to be able to stand 200 kilos up, essentially. And for a lot of beginners, they have a lot of eccentric strength and they have to build up their concentric to match it. But then people don't specifically train their eccentric. So without putting focus on it, you don't improve your eccentric, which then caps how high you can push yourself on your concentric. So being able to finish a lift. So you can incorporate this on its own by simply doing what we call negatives. So let's take the squat still as an example. If you normally take 1 second to go down, 1 second to go up, start taking 3, 4, 5 seconds to go down and come up quickly. You could push that to extremes and go like, right, can I do 10 seconds going down and then come up quickly? And by doing that, you're exposing yourself to the eccentric load. It'll improve the absorption rate. And again, your body can only express what it absorbs. So using the time doing this is going to improve how much you can lift in the long run. Alongside that, we then also have isometrics. Isometrics is where you basically hold a joint position. So if I was on a bench press, imagine I'm laying on a bench, it'd be like me stopping halfway and holding a fixed position before carrying on. What is important is that it's a contraction, not a hold. So you're not just stopping, you're contracting the muscles hard. The idea is that the muscle is exerting the same force as the weight being placed upon it. You can do isometrics on the eccentric and the concentric phase of a lift. In the same way, when we're doing the eccentrics, you can use the same method with concentrics. You can come down slow and come up slow as well. But for the purpose of trying to get the most out of it, we're just going to focus on the eccentric phase for both of these. So putting isometrics in your eccentric phase. So again, if we go back to the squat analogy, if I'm going down slow and then I hold the halfway position for a few seconds, then I continue to go, I'm adding even more stress and force because I'm having to stop and come to zero momentum to then carry on that movement pattern. So on their own, these are 2 really powerful training methods that you can incorporate into your training to make you lift more weight and help get you stronger. So let's talk about how to combine them. I've sort of basically just given you a demo. So again, using the squat, you're going to add a 4 to 5 second eccentric, and you're going to want to pick the halfway point for your first isometric, and then the bottom position for your second isometric, and then you're just going to explode through the concentric. So we're not pausing, we're not going slow on the way up. If I was doing it on a bench press, from the unrack, I'd come down slow, I'd pause at the halfway point, I'd then come down all the way again, pause at the bottom, explode up. Think about any compound movement you can essentially do this with. Overhead presses, bent over rows, deadlifts. These are all movements that you're going to benefit from. However, be sensible about how heavy you go. So what I normally advise is use a weight that you can normally do for 10 reps and aim to do, say, 2 to 4 sets of 6 reps. Because again, your 10 reps is you just going ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. Whereas now, we're adding 2 stimuluses that's going to increase that difficulty. Again, looking at the benefits as to why we're doing this, we can reduce the load that we're placing on our body and still progress. You know, a lot of people get into the mistake of, well, I've got to keep adding weight to the bar to keep getting stronger. But again, we can increase our eccentric strength, which will increase our concentric strength. And we can do that by using the loading parameters. That means we can use a little less weight and focus on controlling it to make it more stress. There is methods where you can actually overload the bar, go with like, say, 105% of your 1 rep max and just do the eccentric and don't do the concentric phase. That's another method, but that's not what we're talking about today. So this is a method for you to incorporate that you can still make progress without adding weight all the while. And for some of you, that's going to be important because if you're a busy professional who has a high stress job, you're not getting as much sleep as you should, your body's already in an environment of stress. And training is just another stressor that we add on top of that. So finding ways to still progress without adding additional stress, this is a perfect method. But like I said, this is for people that have a few years of lifting experience behind them. I wouldn't be coming out the gate as a beginner using this method. It'll also help you identify technical weaknesses and imbalances. You know, when you're squatting and pausing at certain points, or like, for example, the deadlifts, you can find your natural sticking point. If you film yourself doing a deadlift, you go, I seem to pause mid-shin. That's where you put your isometrics in. You put them at those sticking points, and all of a sudden, you'll become stronger at those points, and they'll no longer become sticking points. And as I said, the most important one is it increases your strength potential. It's something that just lifting heavier alone won't always get you to. There will always be a natural ceiling, and we need to introduce other methods to get us past that ceiling. This is 2 different methods that we can combine that allow us to increase our strength potential. So I'm hoping that that's made sense. Hopefully you now understand the importance of isometric training as well as eccentric training and how you can combine the 2. I personally would pick 1 lower body movement and 1 upper body movement. And for a 4 to 6 week cycle, focus on introducing this method here and aim to increase the weight each week. And then you can do a retest. You know, take what you know as a normal 5 rep max, add 10 kilos and do it again and see if it feels at the same sort of RPE level. So again, hope you found this interesting. I hope it's been informative. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them.